Sometimes, from time to time, I think about this question that I have of how selfish I really am, how self centered I am from time to time. And that's a question to ask for everybody when they look at themselves in the mirror and see how self centered that they really are. And I think everybody's selfish to a certain extent. Everybody has to value themselves and look out for themselves and feed into their own desires, needs, and wants in life. And that's justifiable, right? Everybody has their own needs and they have their own desires of what they want in life. And to what extent does it really become very self-centered and turns into selfishness? And I would like to believe it's to the point where it can be at the cost of other people around you. Maybe if it's hurting others or just bringing misfortune to another person. I think that's one factor where you could pinpoint where, hey, you're probably being a little too selfish if it's costing someone else's, misfortune, or it's making someone else uncomfortable. And so I just wonder, like, how much value should we really put onto ourselves? Do we put the whole world, does the whole world really revolve around us where everything is just about me, me, me? And I'm sure at some point in my life, I've really felt that. And if no one cared about my needs and my desires, then you just blow people off. You don't care about them, and you're willing to do anything else that's just about you, not considering what other people need too. So it makes it even harder in a day and age where we have technology, we have social media, where we have our own profiles, we post our own pictures and content and video, where we want to share what's going on in our lives. And this idea of being self centered becomes more emphasized because we create all these type of profiles where it becomes all about us. And there's nothing wrong with sharing things that's going on in our lives, but do we get carried away where we just want people to know that it's all about me and making all the attention to ourselves? And so that's something to ask ourselves. And are we being valuing ourselves so much more than others? I think one thing that really humbles me and makes me realize that the world doesn't really revolve around me and that life isn't all about myself is when I just look at the world. Sometimes when I travel and go to amazing like nature places like in the mountains, the ocean, the beach, things like that. When I look at the world, when I see how vast like this creation of earth is, it's like you're so humbled because you feel so inadequate. You feel so small in the midst of something so grand. And then when you go even to like a very populated city, like major cities in LA, New York, Tokyo, Beijing, places like that, there's so many people around. Like, oh my gosh, like, is it really, am I really that important in the midst of all these millions of people that are just going about their own day, having to deal with their own daily tasks? And so when you look at that, when you're placed in those settings, it just makes you wonder, like, oh, like I'm not really much in this life. Although I am valued to a certain extent, the world doesn't really revolve around me because there's 6 to 7 million people out there that also have their needs and desires and living their own lives. So why should they so be concerned about you and vice versa? And then when you see Mother Nature doing its work, when you see like just the beauty and what Mother Nature presents, or when you see natural disasters, like they don't accommodate for a certain individual. They run their course in however they please. And it doesn't matter who you are, what status you have in life, or how important you are. And even when you look at the stars in the universe, you realize, oh, there's so many stars and galaxies, solar systems out there. It's like, whoa, I'm so small to this vast universe that's been given to us. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you realize, man, maybe I'm not as important as I think I am. And maybe I shouldn't be so self-centered and the world doesn't really revolve around me because there's so many other things going on in this life. There's so much things that are bigger than myself. And it just almost seems like there must be a greater purpose in life than fulfilling just my needs and my desires. So when I look at it from that perspective, I realize, man, I just need to humble myself. There needs to be some form of submission from my end and realize that the world doesn't revolve around me. And I don't need to be as selfish as I feel like I need to be.